Beloved saints, today's 5-minute message of redemptive history is about Nahor, Part 2, from the Genealogy according to the Line of Seth from the first book Genesis Genealogies. Last time, we learned in Part 1 that Nahor's life was shortened due to sin. Today, in Part 2, we will examine how Nahor was a man of greed, deeply immersed in secularism. In Proverbs 28 verse 16 it says, "A ruler who lacks understanding is a cruel oppressor, but he who hates unjust gain will prolong his days." If we apply this word in reverse, it says that if we love unjust gain, it will shorten our life. In Luke 12 verse 15, Jesus said, "Beware and be on your guard against every form of greed." In Ephesians 5:3, Apostle Paul said, "But do not let greed even be named among you." Everyone, what is greed? Greed is excessive desire. Greed leads to all sorts of lies and even to forsaking God or to using God to achieve selfish desires. At times, it manipulates a heart devoted to faith for evil purposes, filling it with the greed of the flesh, which is idolatry. Nahor was this kind of person. God would have been greatly pleased if Nahor had expanded all his energy to guard his faith, to consecrate himself wholly in this world, and to battle against the sinful world. However, Nahor found satisfaction only when honor, wealth, and riches adorned him. He felt comfort and great joy when he placed his trust in them and looked upon them. This was why he was so busy all his life, panting and gasping in order to satisfy his desires. The meaning of Nahor's name is to be out of breath, to pant, to snort. He was so preoccupied and obsessed with wealth, honor, and fame. He was so engrossed in fulfilling his greed that he lost himself and thoroughly lost sight of the importance of his spirit and life. Everyone, when we look in the Bible, we see that Nahor was not someone that didn't know God. There was Noah, his forefather, who prepared the ark obeying God's word. One of his forefathers was Eber, who crossed the Euphrates River, leaving the place of sin. So, although Nahor confessed that he believed, his life was immersed in sensuality and hedonism, where God is not present. When we look in Romans chapter 1, verses 21 to 32, it talks about such people. It says, "Even though they knew God, they did not give thanks. Even though they knew God, they became futile in their speculations. Even though they knew God, they became fools without wisdom. Even though they knew God, they exchanged his glory for idols. Even though they knew God, they exchanged the truth for a lie. Even though they knew God, they were filled with degrading and indecent thoughts. Even though they knew God, they did not see fit to acknowledge God any longer. Even though they knew God, they planned only evil and were ungrateful." Beloved saints, when we look in Romans 1 verse 18, it says that the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all those who are ungodly, unrighteous, and more detestable than unbelievers. So what I pray today is that let it become a lesson for us, so that we throw away our greed and secularism. Let us only have greed or zeal for the will of God. Let us become the people of God that do God's work. I bless in the name of the Lord.